This week on Overtime, we celebrate Easter. He is risen.
He's risen indeed.
Make sure you like or subscribe. Let's get it.
Welcome to Center City Overtime, a weekly podcast where we take a little more time to dive into Sunday's message. And this week, happy Easter.
I'm super excited, more excited than normal. I love Easter.
I love Easter too. And I just thought it would be fun, because it is a holiday, to talk a little bit about how we celebrated Easter maybe growing up, other times. So start with growing up. What was Easter like for you as a kid?
Lot of frilly dresses and hot curling irons. Not for me personally.
I was about to say.
That'd be strange. But when we grew up, Easter was a big deal. Easter Sunday was a big deal. So, Mom would normally have some kind of Easter basket ready for us when we woke up, and then we would be preparing to go to church, and church was like an all-day event, and I loved it. I remember even as a kid loving the pageantry of Easter. It's like everybody brought their best dresses. That's where all of the frills came from, my sister's frilly dresses and curling irons, because I remember the kind of the panic nature of getting ready on Easter morning. The smell of my mom making coffee and getting everybody prepped to go to church. So yeah, it's always been a big deal. I think even now, I'm enamored with the idea that we worship a God who's alive, but not only is he alive, but he brings dead things to life, like he provides that life for others. So, I don't want to get too deep into it, but that's Easter morning for me. So it's not like Christmas morning. Christmas morning, as much as I love it, feels very prepping the family, getting gifts ready, and I love it. I love Easter, Christmas, but Easter feels very much like the community of God, and it feels like the church celebrating, and just, I don't know, I just love it.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, the first thing that came to mind, my very first Easter, I believe, was the day I went home from the hospital after being born. I was born on Good Friday, which I think is part of why I just love this week, because God made me to appreciate symbolism, and then he allowed me to be born on the day that we celebrate the life offered to us through the sacrifice of Jesus' death, and then to get to go home on the day that we celebrate his victory over death. But I think about growing up, we went to a church where you had to, my dad would have to go at 7 in the morning to stand outside the door to wait to get a seat for us at 8:45. And if you weren't there by 8, there was no chance that you were even going to be able to get into the building on Easter. So those mornings were a little bit stressful. We had Easter baskets, but a lot of it was make sure you're ready. We got to get out the door. We weren't trying to go with my dad, but he was often there early. And so as soon as we were old enough, we switched to going to the midnight service the night before Easter, which was actually at 10 o'clock, but they called it the midnight service. And I remember always enjoying that. And the pastor would always make the same joke that, good for you for coming tonight, because the people who come tomorrow morning, he's already out of the grave.
It's a great
he's
joke.
Not there. And I know, I still love it. If we ever do a Saturday night service, I will probably make that joke. So get excited.
Saturday midnight. Sure.
It can be at 10. And so that became just a really cool thing. I just think, kind of to your point about Christmas, we spent more time in church growing up around Holy Week. And for me, I sang in the church choir, and so we were there Thursday night, and we were there Friday, and we were there Saturday night, and we were there Sunday. And so just for me personally, I feel like I've always had to fight a little more of getting lost in the cultural celebration of Christmas and losing the Jesus part of that celebration. I have to fight for that a little bit more, whereas it comes more naturally at Easter, just to celebrate what Jesus has done for us. I don't get caught up in other things as much as I do at Christmas time.
Absolutely.
What about with your boys? What do you do?
So, unfortunately, with my boys, I think their idea of Easter might be a little different than mine, because again, we're just church people. So Jess has always done a phenomenal job of getting them baskets of stuff. So they always get stuff to kind of not open, but just kind of candies and things of that nature. She'll buy them an Easter pajama outfit. She's all over the place. So I love that we get to do that. And then again, it's church, which I just feel like the gathering on Easter is the big thing. And then normally after Easter, we get together with family, and it's just hanging out, showing everybody what you got in your basket. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. We still do an Easter egg hunt every year.
Do you?
And we still have not had a year, I think ever, where we have found all of the Easter eggs. And these are like hard-boiled Easter eggs that we dyed the day before, and like then they get hidden and you have to find the ones that you dyed. And almost every year, sometime in the fall, my mom will discover a gross-smelling, hard-boiled Easter egg that never got found.
They sell plastic ones.
Yeah,
but you can just put it together.
But you don't get to dye those.
I will say, I heard this, and we might do this next year. I don't know. One of the churches, a friend of mine was talking about, they do an adult Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, we should do that.
Where the prizes are not just like token candies. Like it's
I would do it for nothing, just for the sake of the
cards and yeah, I have a friend that actually does that with their family also. But as a church, how cool would that be? They say they get thousands of people to show up to their adult Easter egg hunt.
Get the right prizes.
That's right.
People go crazy for a free T-shirt at a sports game.
They
So
absolutely do. They absolutely do.
Well, we are wrapping up with Easter this Come and See series that we've really been in it, I think 6 weeks now. It's been a longer series, which still I think is funny because, again, we thought this would be a 3-week-long series. And so I just thought, kind of as we wrap the series up, I wanted to have a conversation about why like Easter is the crux of what we're inviting people to come and see. So I know that's a really big question that can go in a lot of different directions, but you're a pastor.
Yeah, I think well on my feet, but I'm sitting down, so I don't know how well this is going to go. So really, we extended this series really intentionally as we were studying through it. This story of the resurrection is a very come and see story, right? You have the angel who's the first kind of person at the empty tomb to announce the risen Savior, and there's an invitation by the angel to come and see, which I love. And I wish we had more time, and I always say that because I would love to juxtapose the picture of the friends of Lazarus. If you've been with us a couple weeks, you'll catch this. If not, you have to go back and do some review. The friends of Lazarus who are mourning his death, they said, come and see, when they were pointing Jesus to the death of Lazarus. Like, here's the dead body. The angel is like, no, he ain't there no more. Come and see the proof that what was once dead is now alive. And I think it's just amazing. And I don't want to re-preach my message, but there's just such a power in this angel's ability, this picture to be invited into the life that Jesus offers. Like, death has been defeated. And then the come and see of Mary Magdalene, who, is the one person in that whole crew that really, if it's about merit, probably didn't deserve to be the first, and yet she was. Because of the grace of God, she's the first to then inform a whole group of these men who we've made heroes out of that were really just common men. Hey, come and see, Jesus is who he says he is. Like, it's just a phenomenal come and see moment. And then ultimately for us, even as I was doing the study and prep for this Sunday, the biggest come and see moment is in a moment where the disciples were doubting and they weren't sure. And Jesus shows up several times. If you read the throughout the Synoptic Gospels, you see Jesus shows up multiple times to just say, in the middle of your doubt, come and see. One time extending his nail-scarred hands and physically telling them, touch my wounds. It just wraps this series up perfectly. It's done a phenomenal job. It's done a really good job of just framing what it means to come and see. Like, he has been inviting us in. We should be inviting other people in, not because it's the cool thing, not just because of, I love community. I think it's a beautiful byproduct. But there's life, there's hope, there's purpose, there's reason. There's all found in the person of Jesus. And it's a great way to sum up the Holy Week. Really, it's come and see.
And I think there's that, we can get this idea of come and see Jesus. Like some of these stories we've talked about, They still thought he was a prophet. You could say, come and see this good teacher, come and see this person who could pray and there were miracles. But once you get to Easter, it's come and see the Messiah.
That's it.
He's unlike anyone who has lived before or will live since. That to me is why Easter is the crux of all of this, because that's what makes it different. I can say, come and see this great teacher, and you might learn something. But if you come and see Jesus, he's going to change your life.
Yeah, I was reminded of that passage that says, beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. You have this heralder who comes and he brings news, inviting people to receive the person of Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. If you remember in the story of the death of Jesus, there's this moment where the guards are shocked that the stone is rolled away. They're just taken aback, so they run back to tell the council, and the first thing the council says is, make sure you tell the people that the body was stolen, because they did everything they could to keep the news from getting out. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, it failed miserably, and we're 2,000 years later celebrating the news that Jesus resurrected from the dead. But I still think our job is the heralder. We are those whose feet should be beautiful with the bringing of the good news that people are transformed. Otherwise, I do think if we're not vocal, if we're not actively inviting people to come and see the goodness of God, the council wins, right? Mm-hmm. that doubt or that thought that's trying to kind of quiet the voice of the Messiah returning and bringing transformation, I think that voice wins.
Yeah, so I feel like one of the things that we maybe don't always do well in our time and culture is we move on from things and we kind of just let them become forgotten. And that can happen with Easter, that can happen with a 6-week series. So as we get ready to move on, what would be your hope for people to just hang on to from the last 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think all of this has been designed. I think the Spirit of God is really preparing. Now, I'll first speak to our church community. So for those of you who call Center City home, mm-hmm. I think this whole series has been prepared to put us in a different place. We are moving from people who've been transformed to people who are a part of the transformation process and others. Mm-hmm. I'm convinced that is the pinnacle of our faith. The objective of our faith is not just that we would live good. I think the objective of our faith is that we would invite others to life, and in that we find satisfaction for ourselves, for our children. We find purpose, we find direction. When life becomes about us, there is a tendency, to grow stagnant in that. And I don't know, we've talked at length about so many different people within the scope of our personal history where when the spotlight becomes about personal advancement and personal success, it becomes overwhelming. There's depression steps in, anxiety steps in, every next objective becomes this miraculous thing that once we get to, it's gonna solve every problem, and it never does, and it always leaves us empty. But true fulfillment is found when we live for others, when we become about bringing transformation everywhere we go. And I think this series has really served to tell our people, no, the hope of the world is invested in you, and they're responding. Every week I'm being introduced to my friend or my neighbor or my coworker. It has been incredible. Brothers and sisters that have been distant from the Lord coming back to the faith, and even as silly as it is, Easter egg hunts or sharing an Instagram post, we have seen people start making that shift. So as far as our people, that's been the hope, and I think that's already kind of happened. And then for those of you who may just be watching and watch consistently, we hope that you have been challenged to be people who are come and see people. That if God has been good, it is our responsibility then to have beautiful feet, to be the people who bring the good news. So that would be my hope.
So you're telling me to get a pedicure?
Listen, it's Holy Week, so we got Monday, Thursday just passed. Did you get your pedicure?
I did get my feet washed.
There you go.
I also washed feet.
There you go.
Of other people.
Well,
yeah.
You can't have it all.
No, that's the whole point.
It is. It's absolutely awesome.
Well, we just really hope that this will be something that doesn't mark a season, but marks a change in all of our lives, just the way that we think about how we approach running errands or going to school, just whatever it is. So I know for me, that's something that I hope isn't just
absolutely,
hey, we did this for 6 weeks and it was fun. No. But hey, this is who we are as we move forward.
Well, you even said it, every one of these stories speaks to different locations and different seasons. Like the woman at the well, we make a huge deal about. It was like a woman at the grocery store. And yet there's this life-changing transformation where people stream from the cities, but it happened in the everyday. So yeah, I hope that this has served to change your everyday as it has mine, even in the study and preparation and delivery of a lot of this content. God has really used this season to make some of those changes in me.
Yeah. Well, we will be moving on from Come and See, but we would still love for you to come and see.
Yeah, look at that, like the transition.
Yeah. We'll be here Sunday morning, 9 o'clock and 11. We cannot wait to see you then.
See you then.